I drove 4 hours for Thanksgiving dinner, but my parents gave my seat to my sister's boyfriend. Sit alone. Carlos's dad is doing our kitchen remodel, they said. So I pulled the financial plug on their entire life and watched everything collapse.
Hey Reddit. So this happened last Thanksgiving. My sister orchestrated giving away my Thanksgiving dinner seat to her boyfriend, contractor's son, to impress his family and get a discount on kitchen remodel. Told me to eat on a TV tray while gloating about her real relationship. My deadbeat cousin made jokes about the situation and later turned our family dysfunction into TikTok content. I did one thing. I withdrew all the financial backing and business services I'd been providing to the family businesses for years. Here's what went down. I, 31 male, have been running a financial consulting firm for the past 5 years. Started doing bookkeeping for small businesses out of my apartment. Now I'm managing portfolios and business structures for multi-million-dollar operations across 3 states. Every Thanksgiving, I make the drive from Charlotte to my parents' place in Asheville, about 2.5 hours through mountain passes. But this time it took about 4 hours thanks to a convoy of RVs doing 35 and a 65 for nearly an hour. Had to stop twice for gas because I was riding the throttle trying to get around these mobile roadblocks. I rolled up to the house around 3:30 p.m. with my duffel bag and a bottle of Macallan 18 I'd grabbed for Dad. A $400 bottle because, hey, it's Thanksgiving and business was good. The second I walk through the door, my mom intercepts me with this fake smile that immediately puts me on high alert. Slight change of plans, she says with this dismissive wave. We gave your seat to Carlos. He's Madison's boyfriend, and his family is doing our kitchen remodel. Much more important than having you sulk at the table. I'm standing there holding the expensive bottle, looking into the dining room where some young dude is sitting in my usual spot next to my sister Madison. Carlos, his dad, owns the contracting company that's been giving them a deal on redoing their kitchen. Before I can even process this, my cousin Trevor rolls up behind me. Trevor's 28, runs what he calls an influencer marketing agency that's basically him posting TikToks for the local restaurants. I've been covering his business insurance and helped him get a small business loan last year because family, right? What's good, cuz? Trevor says, slapping my back like we're boys. Heard you got benched for the new guy. That's rough, buddy. He's grinning like this is the funniest thing ever. Don't worry though, I saved you some appetizers. Well, like half of one. Carlos has got a serious appetite. So where exactly am I supposed to sit? I ask. We set up a TV tray in the living room. Mom says like she's doing me a favor. You can watch the game while you eat. Honestly, you'll probably prefer it. You never contribute much to dinner conversation anyway. Always on that phone doing your paperwork thing. Trevor jumps in. Yeah, man, let the adults handle dinner talk. Business networking and all that grown-up stuff. You can catch up on your spreadsheets later. Dad appears behind Mom. Besides, Carlos's family is saving us 12 grand on this kitchen. What have you done for us lately? A TV tray. Like I'm 8 years old and being punished. I look through the doorway and see Madison whispering something to Carlos, both of them trying not to look at me. She's got this smug little smile like she just pulled off something clever. Carlos looks uncomfortable as hell, but Madison is clearly loving this power play. I didn't argue, just walked back to my truck with my bottle and drove away. Nobody followed me. Nobody called, but I could hear Trevor through the open door. Damn, he's really gonna leave? That's actually hilarious. More food for us. I sat in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven for 10 minutes, just processing what had happened, then headed to my buddy Brian's place. Brian took one look at me and grabbed 2 beers from his fridge without asking what happened. We're talking about a guy who did 3 tours in Afghanistan. He can read a situation. I told him the whole thing while we watched college football highlights. That's ice cold, man, he said. What are you going to do about it? That's when it hit me. See, what my family never bothered to understand about my business is that I don't just shuffle numbers around. I structure entire business operations. And over the years, I quietly become the financial backbone of their entire empire without them realizing it. My dad runs a small CPA firm with 3 employees. My mom has a real estate business. My sister's trying to launch some MLM jewelry thing. My uncle owns 2 auto repair shops that only survived because I negotiated vendor credit, payment extensions, and kept his bonding requirements compliant. And Trevor's influencer marketing agency exists entirely because I co-signed his equipment lease and business insurance. Every single one of them operates on financial structures I built, loans I co-signed, and business relationships I established. The deeper I'd gotten into their operations, the more I realized they were all running on fumes without my backing. Dad's CPA firm had been operating at a loss for 2 years, only staying afloat because I'd structured their debt payments and negotiated payment plans with vendors. Mom's real estate business looked profitable on paper, but that was because I'd been covering her MLS fees, professional insurance, and office overhead through my business credit lines. Even her successful property sales were only possible because I'd provided earnest money deposits when her cash flow ran dry. Around 8 p.m., Madison texts me, LMAO, really? You're going to throw a tantrum because Carlos got invited? Grow up. Some of us have actual relationships. Then Trevor chimes in with his own text. Bro, you missed dessert. Carlos's mom brought some fire flan. Maybe next year ask nicer, and they'll save you a seat. That second text hit different. Trevor was actively trolling me about getting kicked out of my own family dinner. This wasn't just Madison being a bitch. Now my cousin was piling on like this was some kind of entertainment. I'm sitting there on Brian's couch and something just went cold in my brain. Brian noticed the change immediately. You got that look, he said. What are you thinking? I pulled out my laptop and started making a list. Every business loan, every line of credit, every vendor relationship, every insurance policy, all of it connected to my financial backing or business connections. All of it about to disappear. First thing I did was call my contact at the bank. I'd personally guaranteed the loans for Dad's office expansion, Mom's real estate investments, and Trevor's business line of credit. As a guarantor, I had the right to request immediate review of all outstanding debts. By morning, they'd all be getting calls about accelerated payment schedules. Then I hit the vendor relationships. Most of their business partnerships ran through contracts I'd negotiated using my firm's commercial credit rating. I started making calls to suppliers, insurance companies, and service providers, informing them that my firm would no longer be backing these accounts. But the real power move was the tax situation. I'd been handling their business tax preparation and quarterly filings for years. Not just filing, I was the one who set up their depreciation schedules, business deductions, and corporate structures. Without my involvement, they were looking at potential audit triggers and compliance issues they didn't even know existed. Brian watched me work and just shook his head. You're about to teach them what dependency looks like. Couldn't sleep that night. Not because I felt bad, I didn't, but because I was thinking through every financial thread they relied on that they didn't even know existed. By 6 a.m., I was back on my laptop with coffee that Brian made without asking questions. Real friend right there. Next target, their business insurance and bonding. I hadn't just helped them get coverage, I was listed as the financial advisor on most of their policies, and my firm provided the business credit references that kept their premiums low. I called each insurance company and formally withdrew my firm's endorsement. That's when my phone rang. Vincent, the Shark Romano. This guy runs a competing financial consulting firm and has the personality of a used car salesman mixed with a loan shark. He somehow always knows when businesses are in trouble, probably has connections at every bank in the state. Heard through the grapevine that some family businesses might need new representation, Vincent says in that slick voice of his. You having some kind of falling out with the relatives? Something like that, I said. Well, you know me. I'm always happy to help folks in transition. Already got a call from your dad's office. Seems like they're going to need someone to handle their books real quick. And some kid named Trevor is freaking out about his business loan getting called in. I had to laugh. Vincent was like a financial consultant version of that quote from Goodfellas. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. Except instead of gangster, it was opportunistic businessman who charges triple market rates. Charge them whatever you want, I told him. Just remember, when they can't pay your bills, don't come crying to me. Oh, I always get paid. Vincent said with this laugh that sounded like a cash register. One way or another. Speaking of which, that Trevor kid offered to pay me in social media promotion. I told him I don't accept Instagram followers as currency. After I hung up, Brian looked at me funny. You just sicked the shark on your own family? They wanted to find out what their businesses are worth without me, I said. Vincent's going to give them a very accurate assessment. But Trevor's text was the real gem. Dude, WTF? My business loan got called in and they're saying you canceled your guarantee? This is seriously messed up. I have payments due and employees to pay. You're literally destroying my company because you got your feelings hurt over dinner. That's psycho behavior, bro. Fix this now, or I'm telling everyone what kind of person you really are. I forwarded the text to my business partner, David, who's been handling our major accounts while I was doing the family charity work. He called me back immediately. You've been subsidizing their entire operation, he said. Do you realize how much liability you've been carrying? And this Trevor kid, his business is basically a financial house of cards. Without your backing, he's got maybe 2 weeks before bankruptcy. That afternoon, I had a meeting with Tom Bradley, a commercial banker who's been in the business for 30 years. Tom's this gruff old school guy who looks like he could bench press a Buick and talks like he's auditioning for a Clint Eastwood movie. He handles commercial loans for most of the major businesses in Charlotte. Heard you cut ties with some family accounts, Tom said, lighting up a cigar in his office like smoking bans don't apply to him. Good for you. Been wondering when you'd grow a pair? You knew about the situation? Tom laughed. this gravelly sound like rocks in a cement mixer. Kid, I've been watching you carry dead weight for 3 years. Your dad's shop has been operating on fumes since 2019. Your mom's business never turned a profit without your backing. And that cousin of yours, his marketing agency is basically you paying for him to play on social media all day. He leaned back in his chair. I kept approving their loans because your name was on the paperwork. Trevor's been telling everyone his business is disrupting the marketing industry. Reality is he's disrupting your bank account. What if they don't make it? I asked. Tom shrugged. Then they'll join the 80% of small businesses that fail because they confused activity with productivity. Trevor especially. Kid thinks followers equal dollars. Not your problem anymore. He was right. Conservative estimate, I'd been providing about $65,000 worth of services annually across all their businesses. Not counting the loan guarantees, not counting my time, just the raw financial backing and professional services. Trevor called himself CEO, but his agency was a 2-person WeWork setup, and some interns he paid in free smoothies. That Audi he drove? Co-signed by me. Even his podcast mic setup was on my business credit. What really got me was remembering Trevor's equipment lease. $3,200 monthly for video editing gear and camera equipment he claimed were business investments. The kid had convinced me it was essential for scaling his content creation pipeline. Turns out he was mostly using the gear to film himself doing dance challenges and day-in-my-life vlogs, professional filmmaking equipment to document his morning coffee routine and gym selfies. Next morning felt different. I didn't check my phone until after I'd hit the gym and grabbed breakfast. 28 missed calls, 53 text messages, and 1 email from my uncle's shop manager with the subject line, "Emergency, bank froze our accounts." The email was panicked. Without my firm's backing, their business credit had been flagged for review. The bank had frozen their operating accounts pending financial verification. They couldn't pay employees, couldn't order parts, couldn't even process customer payments. "We have $80,000 worth of jobs scheduled this week," she wrote. "The bank is demanding proof of assets and we don't know what paperwork they want." I forwarded it to Vincent Romano with a note. "Happy Thanksgiving." Guy probably started salivating when he read it. By 10 a.m., the bargaining phase started, but it was more demands than apologies. Text from Mom. "We can talk about this. You've made your point. Now fix our accounts and we'll call it even." Then from Dad. "You're destroying everything we've built. Do you have any idea how much money you're costing us? Your mother is crying. I hope you're proud of yourself." Trevor sent a series of increasingly panicked messages. "Bro, my equipment lease got canceled. They're saying I need a new guarantor. My business insurance lapsed. Company says they need proof of financial backing. Dude, my landlord is threatening eviction. My rent check bounced because the bank froze my account. Fine, whatever. Maybe I was wrong to joke around. But seriously, you need to fix this before I lose everything." That one made me laugh. They still thought they were the victims here. Then came Mom again. "We don't understand why you're being so vindictive. We included Carlos because his family is helping us." That's called networking. Something you'd understand if you knew anything about real business. You're 31 years old acting like a spoiled teenager because you didn't get your way. One time. Around 11 a.m., Vincent called me back. "Holy shit. These people are worse than I thought. Your dad just offered me exposure and future business opportunities instead of my consulting fee." I told him this isn't Instagram. I don't work for exposure. "What about Trevor?" "Oh, that kid's a piece of work. Showed up at my office in an Audi he can't afford, designer clothes, gold chain, looking like he's about to drop a mixtape. Starts pitching me on how his personal brand is worth more than money." I said, "Kid, I can't deposit your personal brand at the bank." I could hear Vincent's grin through the phone. Then he offered to make me TikTok famous in exchange for financial services. I said the only fame I want is being famous for getting paid on time. Around 2:30 p.m., Carlos called me directly. Not Madison, not his dad. Him. He sounded uncomfortable as hell. "Look, man, I need to apologize," he said. "I didn't know what Madison was setting up. I thought your parents had invited me because they genuinely wanted me there, not because, not your fault," I told him. "But you might want to think about whether you want to be part of a family that operates like this." There was a long pause. "Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Madison's been different since this whole thing started. Like she's proud of what happened. And your cousin Trevor kept making jokes about it all through dinner. Really uncomfortable stuff." "Oh, Trevor was making jokes." "Yeah, he kept saying stuff like, 'Welcome to the family. You're already more valuable than our last guy. And don't worry, if you ever get successful, they'll kick you out too.'" Madison was laughing, but it was weird, man. Like they thought hurting you was funny. They showed up at Brian's place Tuesday afternoon. I saw them through the window. Mom, Dad, sister, and Trevor, walking up to the door like they owned the place. Brian answered and didn't invite them in, but Dad pushed past him anyway. "We need to use your kitchen table. This is family business." "Excuse me?" Brian said, but Trevor was right behind Dad. "What's up, Brian?" Trevor said like they were friends. "Nice place. Very minimalist. Is that intentional or just broke?" He laughed at his own joke. Brian's a patient guy, but he's also got that military bearing that says, "Don't test me." He stepped between the family crew and me. "You can talk to him from right there. Nobody invited you to sit down." "Enough of this nonsense," Dad said, not even sitting down. "You've had your little tantrum. Now you're going to fix what you broke and we're going to pretend this never happened." Trevor jumped in. "Yeah, 'cause this has gone way too far. You can't just destroy people's livelihoods over dinner drama." Mom jumped in. "Do you realize what you've put us through? Your father had to hire some company that charges 3 times what you would have. We're hemorrhaging money because you couldn't handle sharing a dinner table." "3 times?" I said. "Vincent's actually giving you a discount. Most consultants would charge 5 times what I was charging," which was nothing. Trevor pulled out his phone. "Look, I even made a TikTok about toxic family members to help process this situation. Got like 50,000 views. Maybe if you see how this affects others, you'll understand." Brian let out one of those short laughs that says, "Glad it's not me." Did this kid just say he made a TikTok about family business? Posted on Instagram and YouTube too. Trevor said proudly. "It's called When Your Cousin Destroys Your Business Over Thanksgiving Dinner." Really raw, emotional content. My followers are super supportive. "You put our family business on social media?" Dad asked. "It's called authentic storytelling, Uncle. This is how my generation processes trauma. Maybe if you guys understood modern communication, we wouldn't be in this mess." Mom started her prepared speech, but it was pure entitlement. "Look, we're willing to forgive this whole episode. You're clearly having some kind of breakdown, probably work stress. We'll chalk it up to you being overwhelmed and move on. But you need to get our accounts working again today." Trevor nodded eagerly. "Exactly, we're family. We forgive you. Now let's fix this mess and get back to normal. I've got a client presentation Thursday and I need my business account unfrozen. Not we're sorry. Not we were wrong. Just we're willing to forgive you. The delusion is unreal. You want to know what I realized?" I said. "That you never saw me as family. You saw me as infrastructure. Something that runs in the background and keeps everything working." Dad scoffed. "Oh, please, you think we don't appreciate you? We let you help with our businesses. We included you in family dinners. What more do you want, a medal?" Trevor laughed. "Bro, we literally invited you to Thanksgiving dinner. You just couldn't handle not being the main character, huh?" I just looked at him. This was coming from a guy who live-streamed his morning coffee routine for 18 views. Brian laughed. "Let him help? Dude, from what I hear, you'd be selling pencils on street corners without him." "Stay out of this," Dad snapped. "This is between family." Trevor pointed at Brian. "Yeah, man, no offense, but this is family business. You wouldn't understand the dynamics." "I wanted basic respect," I said. "Respect?" Mom laughed. "You mean like the respect you showed us when you sabotaged our livelihoods over a seating arrangement? Grow up. The world doesn't revolve around you." Madison rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, you're so dramatic. We invited one extra person to dinner. Carlos's family is saving us money and you're acting like we murdered your dog." "You gave away my seat for a contractor discount," I said. "You didn't even ask. You just decided your boyfriend was more important than your brother." "He is more important," she snapped. "He's going to be family. You're just some money guy who thinks he's irreplaceable." Trevor jumped in. "And honestly, Carlos is way cooler than you anyway. Guy's got personality, tells great stories. You just sit there checking your phone and talking about tax codes." The room went quiet. Even Mom looked shocked that they were being so openly hostile. Dad's voice got hard. "You can't just destroy what we've built." "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "I just stopped building it for you." Brian stood by the wall like a bouncer at a dive bar, calm and not surprised by anything. "This is better than Jerry Springer," he muttered. Madison was getting more agitated. "You're such a vindictive little bitch. Carlos broke up with me because of this drama. His whole family thinks we're toxic now." Trevor's eyes went wide. "Wait, Carlos dumped you? Damn, that sucks. But like, maybe if you hadn't made such a big deal about the seating thing." "Shut up, Trevor," Madison snapped. "I'm just saying, the drama was kind of intense. My TikTok followers are split 50-50 on who's wrong here. Comments are wild." "Maybe because you are," I said to Madison. She completely lost it. "I hate you. You ruined everything. Carlos's dad won't even finish our kitchen now because you made us look bad. Mom and Dad might lose the house, and it's all because you couldn't handle not being the center of attention for one night." Trevor tried to play peacemaker. "Look, everyone's stressed, but we're family. We can work this out. I already apologized in my follow-up TikTok, posted yesterday. Madison, stop, Mom said, but she was on a roll. No, he's a selfish piece of shit who thinks he's better than everyone because he makes more money. Well, guess what? Money doesn't make you family. You're right, I said. And neither does DNA, apparently. Trevor pulled out his phone again. Yo, this would actually make great content. The raw emotion, the family tension. Very authentic. Would you guys be cool if I went live right now? My followers love family drama content. Everyone stared at him. What? I'm just saying. Might as well monetize the situation. Turn this negative into a positive. That's what successful entrepreneurs do. David showed up that weekend with a business proposal. While I'd been playing financial advisor for my family, he'd been developing some major contracts that needed my specific expertise. We could triple our revenue if you stop giving away your best work, he said. I've got 4 major corporations that want to hire us exclusively for their financial restructuring. That night, I made a decision that changed everything. I incorporated a new company. No family connections, no charity work, just pure business. David and I became equal partners, and Brian came on as head of operations. Since financial consulting often requires handling sensitive information, Tom helped us establish banking relationships and credit lines. Now, this is what a real business structure looks like, he said, reviewing our paperwork. No dead weight, no family drama, just professionals doing professional work. Within 6 months, we had government contracts, major corporate clients, and a waiting list of companies that wanted our services. Every client paid market rates. Every contract was profitable. Every relationship was professional. The difference was incredible. Instead of spending weekends fixing Trevor's latest financial disaster or explaining basic business concepts to family members who thought synergy was just a buzzword, I was working with actual professionals who understood what they were buying. Our first government contract alone was worth more than what I'd been giving away to family for free over 3 years. My family's businesses? Dad had to close his CPA firm when the bank had called in his loans and he couldn't qualify for refinancing. Mom's real estate business survived, but she had to rebuild her entire financial structure from scratch. My uncle's shop stayed open, but he had to bring in Vincent Romano's firm at triple what I would have charged. Trevor's influencer marketing agency? Dead within 3 weeks. Without my financial backing, he couldn't afford his office lease, equipment payments, or business insurance. His last TikTok was titled How I Lost Everything in 2024, a cautionary tale. It got 200,000 views but $0 in revenue. Vincent called me one day laughing. Your uncle just asked me if I could work for family rates. I told him I don't have a family, I have clients. And clients pay full price or they find someone else. What about Trevor? Kid showed up begging for payment plans. Offered to create social media content for my firm in exchange for business loans. I told him I'd rather set my money on fire than invest in his personal brand. They tried reaching out a few more times, but by then I was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that valued my work instead of just expecting it. Year later, something interesting happened. Carlos reached out to me on LinkedIn. He'd started working full-time for his dad's construction company and wanted to talk business. During our meeting, he brought up what had happened. I need you to know I broke up with Madison about a month after Thanksgiving. What she did to you, the way she talked about it afterwards, it showed me who she really was. How so? I asked. She kept bragging about how she'd put you in your place and gotten me invited to family dinner. Like it was some kind of power move. When your family's businesses started failing, she blamed you for being too sensitive, instead of recognizing that maybe they'd treated you like garbage. Turns out Carlos had been uncomfortable the whole time, realized he was being used as a pawn in Madison's game, and wanted nothing to do with that kind of manipulation. Trevor made it worse, Carlos said. Guy was constantly making TikToks about the situation, turning your family's problems into content. Madison thought it was hilarious at first, but then people started recognizing her from his videos. She got called out at work. Friends started asking questions. The social media thing backfired hard. I tried to talk to her about reaching out to you, maybe fixing things, he said. But she said you deserved whatever happened because you were always jealous of her. Sounds about right, I said. Actually, he said, I've got something that might interest you. Carlos had been talking to other contractors about financial services. Construction companies handle big money, project financing, equipment loans, bonding requirements. They need professional financial management, but most don't know where to start. Tom had been pushing me to expand into construction financing anyway. These contractor boys make good money, but they're terrible with paperwork, he'd said. Could be a goldmine for someone who knows what they're doing. Carlos ended up becoming our biggest referral source in the construction industry. Brought us contracts worth more than my family's entire annual revenue combined. The guy my sister thought was more important than me became instrumental in building something bigger than any of them could have imagined. Brian pointed out the irony. Your sister lost her boyfriend and you gained a business partner. What really got me, though, was what Carlos told me about Madison's reaction when he broke up with her. Apparently, she screamed at him that it was all my fault, that I'd poisoned him against her family, that he was choosing me over her. Midsummer, about 8 months after their empire face planted, Trevor started reaching out. Not to apologize, to pitch me on his comeback story. First message, yo cuz. Hope you're doing well. I've been doing some serious self-reflection, and I think I figured out how to turn this whole situation into a win-win. I'm launching a new brand called Authentic Failure, basically documenting my journey from rock bottom back to success. Want to be part of the story? Could be great content for both of us. I didn't respond, so he followed up. I know things got heated last year, but I've been thinking about it, and honestly, you kind of did me a favor. Forced me to innovate. Failure is just success that hasn't happened yet, you know? Steve Jobs got fired from Apple. Look how that worked out. Brian read the messages and nearly choked on his coffee. This dude really just compared himself to Steve Jobs? A week later, Trevor showed up at our office building. Somehow talked his way past security and was waiting in the lobby when I came back from lunch. He was wearing what looked like thrift store clothes, but arranged in some kind of intentionally disheveled influencer aesthetic. Before you say anything, he said, holding up his hands, I'm not here to ask for money. I'm here to offer you an opportunity. I kept walking toward the elevator, but he followed me. I've been documenting my journey from business failure to comeback. The content is absolutely fire, raw, authentic, vulnerable. My engagement rates are insane, but I need a redemption arc for the finale. The elevator doors opened and I stepped in. Trevor squeezed in behind me. Picture this. Estranged cousins reunite, forgive each other, and launch a joint venture combining traditional finance with modern social media marketing. We could call it financial influence or money moves media. The story writes itself. Trevor, I said, you made TikToks about our family's private business. Content creation, he corrected. And it was therapeutic. My therapist says sharing trauma helps process it. I'm basically providing a public service by being vulnerable about family dynamics. The elevator reached my floor. I stepped out. Trevor kept talking. I've got a whole series planned. Rebuilding after betrayal. Family business gone wrong. How my cousin destroyed my dreams but made me stronger. The algorithm loves comeback stories. I turned around. You still think you're the victim here? We're all victims of poor communication, Trevor said. But victims can become victors. That's literally the tagline for my new brand. Security showed up a few minutes later to escort him out. As they walked him to the elevator, I heard him asking the guard if he wanted to be featured in a day in the life of building security video. Tom was in my office when I told him about the encounter. Kid's got persistence, I'll give him that. Completely delusional but persistent. The funniest part was finding out later that Trevor's Authentic Failure brand consisted of him living in his parents' basement and making TikToks about choosing minimalism over materialism. He'd rebranded his complete financial collapse as a conscious lifestyle choice. His bio read digital nomad or minimalist, authentic living coach, teaching others that success isn't about money. Except he wasn't nomadic, he was broke. And his authentic living advice consisted of tips like rice and beans can be gourmet if you add the right mindset. Update. The inheritance play. That same summer, I got a call from a lawyer representing my parents' estate planning. Apparently, they were updating their will and had some questions about business assets. The lawyer had to explain to them that they didn't actually own most of the financial structures they'd been using. No business credit, no loan guarantees, no vendor relationships. Everything valuable was either owned by my company or had been terminated when I left. They're asking if you'd be willing to transfer ownership of these relationships as part of your inheritance, the lawyer said. They also wanted me to convey that they expect you to resume financial services going forward as part of your family obligations. I laughed. Family obligations? Tell them I already received my inheritance. It was the education in what family really means. The lawyer was quiet for a moment, then said, they also mentioned that if you don't cooperate, they're considering legal action for, let me read this, deliberate sabotage of established business relationships? There's also something about a social media defamation claim, the lawyer continued. Apparently someone named Trevor has been posting videos about the situation, and they believe you're somehow responsible for the content. Tell them good luck with that, I said. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped working for free. And if they think they can hold me responsible for Trevor's TikToks, they're more delusional than he is. Tom nearly choked on his cigar when I told him about the inheritance threat. They want to sue you for not giving them free money? That's like suing McDonald's because they won't give you free burgers. Good luck finding a lawyer stupid enough to take that case. Brian was in the room when I hung up. They still don't get it, do they? They get it, I said. They just thought they could manipulate their way out of the consequences. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that they'd had to sell the house. The kitchen remodel was never finished. Carlos's dad pulled out of the contract after the family drama. Madison's MLM jewelry business collapsed when she couldn't afford to maintain the financial structures, and last I heard she was working retail at some mall store. Trevor's still making content. His latest series is called Living with My Parents at 29, a Millennial Success Story. He's positioning it as choosing family over materialism and redefining success in the modern economy. Last I checked, he had about 3,000 followers and was still trying to monetize his failure. Vincent called me when he heard about the house sale. Your mom tried to hire me to handle the real estate transaction. I told her my consulting rate is $500 an hour, payable in advance. She said that was highway robbery. I said, Lady, I'm not robbing anybody. I'm running a business, not a charity. Sometimes people ask if I feel bad about how it all went down. The answer is no. My family taught me exactly what I was worth to her, and I learned the lesson perfectly. These days, I'm running a multi-million-dollar financial consulting firm with real partners who value my contribution. Brian handles operations. David manages client relationships. Carlos's construction company is one of our biggest clients. Tom sits on our advisory board and still gives me grief about charging too little for my services. We're building something that lasts because everyone involved actually wants to be there. As for my family, they're figuring out how to run their lives without me, which is exactly what Madison said they wanted that Thanksgiving. Only difference is I didn't end up alone. They did. Trevor's still making TikToks about the situation, but now he frames it as entrepreneurial lessons learned and how family trauma made me stronger. His content gets maybe 500 views per video and 0 business opportunities. Turns out authentic failure only goes viral once. And Carlos, he dodged a bullet. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a decent person is finding out early what kind of family they almost married into. Tom Bradley put it best. You can't choose your family, but you can choose whether to carry them. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let them fall on their ass and figure out how to get back up.